Okay, so I picked up this Danmoto exhaust system in order to replace the damaged one, the damaged stock system that's on the bike where the thing was wrecked so many times. I'm going to go ahead and get that installed. So these are the silencers that I got, and they slide in, I believe, I got to check the instructions, but I believe they slide in this way, and they're kind of tapped into place so they don't come out. I'm going to double check the instructions and see. There's the instructions there. Nothing on those guys. I'm going to assume that's how they work, so I'm going to go grab something to tap them in with. It's seated in there pretty good. You see it? You can see, I don't know if you can see that, but seated in there pretty good. Let's do the next one. The mesh down here is a little bent, so I don't know if this guy's going to fit. So that is that. Let's start getting it installed. 12mm? Yep, 12mm. Alright, so the stock exhaust is off, but the issue I'm running into is that the stock exhaust uses bolts and the aftermarket exhaust has studs. So I'm going to have to track down some nuts for these guys. Looks like an M8 125, shouldn't be hard to find. It's an unexpected need. Let's just see how this guy fits on here. There we go. Doesn't look like there's a gasket or anything. There was a gasket on that one. Huh. I don't think there's a place for a gasket on this guy. Nope, there's not. I'm going to put some copper gasket maker on that just to make sure it fits well. Alright, so what I'm going to do here, I'm going to use this copper gasket maker. And you're supposed to put this on, let it sit up for a little bit, and then tighten everything down. So I'm going to let this sit while I run to the store and get those nuts that I need. This is just going to help make sure I don't have a leak, since the new exhaust doesn't come with a gasket. So I've got copper on the muffler side here as well, and when that kind of cures up a little bit, it's just going to make a nice copper gasket to seal, make sure there's not a leak, because when you weld metal like that, it's going to warp. I guarantee you that is not a flat flange there. The one on the exhaust might be closer to flat, but this one I guarantee you is not flat, just based on how thin that metal is and how it's welded. So we're just going to make sure there's not any leaks, kind of take some extra precaution. Well, this is fun. So be careful when you're putting on bolts. This is a super cross-threaded bolt I just had to remove from the other side of the exhaust. Yeah, just don't do that. If the bolt doesn't seem like it's going in right, stop turning it, back it off and restart it. Make sure the thing threads right. Good Lord. And I didn't do it to just that one. There's this one, which just broke because it was cross-threaded so bad it would not move. It just sheared off. So that kind of stuff happens, especially on exhaust whenever you've got heat and everything in place. Just make sure things thread right. So I picked up some lock washers. I like lock washers because anything with vibration, lock washers are going to be a better bet than a flat washer. So unless you've got something specifically made for exhaust, like an OEM bolt that you can reuse, I'd suggest going with lock washers on your exhaust components. So let's get this guy set up. We've got our copper on there. It's set up for about 20 minutes. It's got a little bit of tack to it. It's not goopy anymore. So we're going to go ahead and get that installed and bolt it up. It's going to start this one bolt real quick to kind of hold it in place, and I'm going to do something else before I get too crazy with anything. Alright, so I'm going to hold that in place, and what I'm actually going to do is I'm going to put some anti-seize on all of these guys here, because when you're dealing with heat, things like to seize. So a little bit of anti-seize on any exhaust component is a good idea in my opinion. And with anti-seize, you just need a dab. You don't need a ton, just a little bit. Just enough to coat the threads right where the nut's going to sit, in this case. With this copper gasket, I'm just going to snug down these bolts a little. And then I'm going to come back later and actually tighten them all the way. That's kind of the recommended use of these created gaskets. Right, so same thing on this side. I've got my copper gaskets made here. So now we got to let that copper sit for a little bit and tighten it all the way down. So now we can go ahead and make our brackets that hold it up. Right, so the Danmoto exhaust came with some little pre-made brackets we're going to have to attach. And now, since this thing has been wrecked, this bracket is bent. So I am going to just bend it back a little bit. Somewhere along those lines. Oh, that needs a little bit more. Let's try it again. We'll see how that works. We'll make it fit. And so what I've got is I got a piece of metal here, and I've got this piece of rubber that fits around it. I'll go ahead and get that fitted. See, I'm gonna pull off the protective material here on the bracket. That keeps it all nice and shiny. Now on the opposite side of that, I can mount this rubber piece. Alright, when it's all put together, this is what it looks like. And okay, so ignore what I was doing there. Whenever I put this strap on here, I apparently didn't do it right, so I'm going to correct that and do it the correct way. So last time I actually took the strap and mounted it directly to this bracket, which honestly would probably work fine. However, it keeps stress always kind of pulling up on the exhaust, which isn't ideal. So what I'm going to do this time is just connect the strap directly around the exhaust, and then I'm going to run a bracket from the strap to this piece. So that's what I'm going to do now. There we go. And that is the proper way to mount this strap. Ignore the other way that I did it and what you're going to see in the rest of the video. So we've let the copper sit and cure for about 45 minutes or so at this point. And I'm going to go ahead and tighten everything down the final time. I'm not cranking down on these as hard as I possibly can. I'm just getting them to where I feel like they're not going to come off. All right, let's go knock out the other side and then we can start it up. All right, so we got everything installed, cleaned up. We'll see how it sounds real quick. Just start it up, make sure everything's good. Now we can go out and take it for a ride, and I'll do a walk around and a couple of revs for you later. Let's give it a rev real quick. So that's what it sounds like, and you can hear a little bit of it going down the road too. Pretty happy with it, it sounds good.